So this video, we're going to go over what happens to equilibriums when we see shifts in demand. Okay? So it's going to get a nice graph drawn out here where I've got quantity and price on my X and Y axis. We're going to have an initial starting supply curve and initial starting demand curve. Okay? We've said that demand reflects the marginal benefits to consumers and supply reflects the marginal cost to producers. So prior to this point, right, if we think about identifying the equilibrium quantity and price, that's just where supply intersects demand, or where the marginal benefits of the last unit, right, the last quantity, is going to be the same as the marginal cost of the last quantity, right? At any quantity past this point, the producers that are willing to supply that to the market, the cost is greater than what consumers would be willing to pay, right? Because consumers are willing to pay up to their marginal benefit. So we identify kind of our equilibrium price and quantity by where those two curves, supply and demand, intersect. So we're starting out here. So one way we could think about this, the example that I'll kind of use is, let's say this was the demand to non-diabetic individuals. And we'll think about, we're looking at the quantity of a vaccine, and we're thinking about maybe here up here, we could think about if they weren't free, right, the price of how much someone would pay for a vaccine. So let's now assume that we have a different group, right? We're looking at the demand curve, not for non-diabetic individuals, but for diabetic individuals, right? Well, we know that that's one of the comorbidities to having COVID. And so for them, the marginal benefit of getting a vaccine is much, much higher, right? And we're looking at the market as a whole here, right? So obviously everyone can only consume like one vaccine, but we're adding up individual demand curves, kind of 1 versus 0, right? I either consume it or I don't. And so you can think about, for those individuals who are diabetic, the marginal benefit to them is going to be much higher, representing that at any given price, there's going to be more diabetic individuals who are willing to purchase that vaccine if we are allowing people to buy it. So we see this increase in demand for them, right? Because this good has more value to that group of individuals who have a comorbidity versus those who don't. So what we would expect to see, we're kind of assuming here that we have the equal number of diabetic and non-diabetic individuals, which may not be exact reality, but it gets at this idea of, well, what if we have the same amount of individuals and this one have this different characteristic, which makes this vaccine much more valuable or increases the marginal benefit to them. We can kind of see that increase in demand. Our new equilibrium will be where that new demand curve intersects the supply curve. So we can kind of think about the equilibrium price the individual with diabetes would pay would be much higher than the price. And I guess if we're going to kind of label this, much higher than the price that a non-diabetic person would be willing to pay. And we would expect to see the number of individuals who are diabetic and get the vaccine is greater than that for those who are non-diabetic, right? So this is kind of goes to show anytime that there's something that makes that good more valuable, right? We could see an increase in demand. You know, we could think about, there's other things that can shift demand, like increases in income for normal goods. We talked about the price of substitute goods going up, right? Whatever those things are that shift demand, this is how that shift in demand would impact what the equilibrium price and quantity would be.